Global oil prices are surging as the war in the Middle East rages on, and Canadians are feeling the pain at the pump.
Now we have to think on how to limit to use the car.
Yeah, I've noticed the jump. We need to drive our cars, so not much that we can do.
We hope they will come with some kind of solution to or switch to electric car,
Today, the average price for gas in Canada is $1.53 a litre. That is expected to spike overnight as Iran continues to block shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne was asked earlier about the rising costs for Canadians.
This is not unique to Canada. We had a G7 meeting. We're monitoring the situation very carefully every day. There's been, as you've seen, swing in the price of commodities and oil in the recent days, but that's why we've called for de-escalation, stabilize the price of oil.
So, could the rising cost of gas force the government to shift gears and focus more on affordability? Time now for the Power Panel. Cameron Ahmed was the head of communications to former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Lisa Raitt is a former Conservative cabinet minister. Andrew Thompson is a former NDP cabinet minister in Saskatchewan. And Emily Nicolas is a columnist for Le Devoir. Emily, I want to start with you. Part of Iran's defense has been to attack the global energy market. How prepared do you think Canada is to weather this storm?
We already have an affordability crisis in Canada and elsewhere in several countries around the world. So it is hitting us. At the same time, I do think that it's part of the political pressure that is being put on, even by, François-Philippe Champagne was saying he was just coming back from the G7 meeting along with the Prime Minister. I'm sure that the pressure that other G7 countries will put on Donald Trump to de-escalate this conflict is in part due to domestic effects in the homes of basically all the senior leaders of this world, and so I think it might have an efficiency in terms of political pressure, and obviously in the meantime people are paying the price. The thing that most people will see obviously is the price at the pump. We have gigantic red numbers flashing at us anytime we basically cross the street. We don't see it as much when it comes to the price of urea, which is a fertilizer used around the world. It's going to have an impact as well in terms of agriculture. We're not seeing it as well in terms of, as clearly in terms of the price of transportation and the inflationary push it puts on goods, including groceries as well, eventually. And so I think it might be easy to just be, oh my God, gas at the pump, let's fix that specifically. But I think the crisis is more better understood in a holistic way, and also that this game, basically yo-yo that we're in, is going to be in as long as Donald Trump is in power, and that we have global crises multiplying and geopolitical instability. And so it feels a little bit like a whack-a-mole game. So right now we're focused on this. But at this rate, if the world continues to be this unstable, by the time we fix this, we don't know what else is going to be thrown at us. And so I think really stabilizing the geopolitics should be our priority to solve this.
Andrew, Minister Champagne there, you heard him say that this is not unique to Canada. Do you think that's any comfort to Canadians?
Well, it's not obviously great comfort. And in fact, although a lot of the pressure, and notwithstanding what we're seeing in gas prices today, a lot of the pressure remains on food prices, which I think ordinary Canadians do see every time they stop at the grocery store. And there are a lot of questions about why that is, and whether there is more that the government can be doing to address some of those issues and some of those pressures here. The question around oil prices is a curious one because, of course, obviously our oil is not imported from the Middle East, but we are obviously impacted by the price increases. Now that'll change a little bit with jet fuel, I understand, but we're also still at a point on gasoline that we're lower than what we were in the recent memories, thanks to the Carney government taking the carbon tax off. Is there more that could be done by provinces in reducing if it does start to get high? Absolutely. I mean, there are tax measures that could be done there, but I think it's the whole basket of goods that Canadians are feeling, and some of that is, very simple stuff in terms of the staples. I mean, I was out looking at picking up groceries the other day. I mean, I'm still not sure why coffee's $13 a pound when it was only $9 a pound, $10 a pound 4 months ago. I mean, yes, there's climate change. Yes, it's crop issues. Yes, it's logistics, all of those things. But when you start to pay that final bill at the grocery store, I think that's what Canadians are looking at and going, why is this still so high and why can't anything be done about it? And none of the parties, to be honest, have really put forward much of a set of options in terms of really reducing that. You know, we've heard the calls for a excess profits tax, which certainly the Freeland and the Trudeau government had put in place on the banks at one point. You know, there's an opportunity to do some of that maybe on the gas companies, but again, I don't know that any of that in the short term is really going to make things more affordable for consumers.
Okay, Cameron, Prime Minister Carney initially came out in support of Trump's efforts in terms of in Iran, then called for a de-escalation. How could the increase in gas prices impact Canadian support for the government?
Well, I mean, as long as there is a war in Iran and the global instability that Emily talked about, there's very little that the government can do to affect the prices that consumers are facing. I mean, the Prime Minister's position, of course, is going to be scrutinized by people. And I think as clear as he can be and as definitive as he can be about Canada staying out of it and Canada calling for de-escalation and Canada supporting peace efforts politically is I think the best move for him. But he's also juggling realpolitik and dealing with an administration with whom we have ongoing trade negotiations, which will impact prices of everything and our entire trading relationship with our biggest trading partner. So he has an extremely difficult job in terms of how he communicates to the public, knowing that every single thing he says could be scrutinized not only by Canadians, but by the administration as well. And I think as long as he continues to show consistency in his focus, that he's focused on what is in the long-term benefits of Canada's economy, how can we continue trying to manage the relationship with the United States despite all of the turmoil that people are well aware of, I think people are going to continue to see that he and the Liberal government are well positioned. And I think people understand right now that the increase in prices are a direct result of the war that the president and Israel started in Iran.
Now, Lisa, it's certainly the long-term economic effects are something that the Prime Minister has to keep in mind and have as his focus. But we have immediate issues with prices and affordability that every day, because the gas prices are now so high, are going up. We'd already been dealing with the uncertainty around trade for almost a year now. What do you think the government, what steps could the government take to help cushion the blow for Canadians now?
Well, it's pretty simple. You can reduce the GST on gas. You can look at the excise tax. I mean, remember, there's a whole bunch of tax that's included in the price at the pump. And as that price goes up, so does the amount of GST that goes into the federal coffers. And we've done this before. We've seen this play before. I understand, and it's very true, that we are being buffeted by what's happening in the United States. And we know that we have to deal with that. But there are absolutely tools for the federal government to use. And as far as Canadians understanding, I remember very clearly being in the 2008 election where we saw this kind of volatility go up and then go down, then go up and down again. People at the doors were rave-starking angry about this, and they wanted to know what they were going to do because it's an immediate impact on their style of life, how they live. If, like the woman said in the pre-film that you just showed, if she says, well, I have no choice, I have to fill my car, where's she going to find the money in her budget? Well, it's going to come from discretionary, whatever that's going to mean for that family. Is it the fact that they're not going to be getting a different kind of coffee, or they're not eating out, or they're a whole bunch of other things. So Canadians are going to have to deal with this in a very real way. They're going to expect the government to deal with this in a real way as well. Saying that it's happening because something's going on halfway across the world, not going to cut it. They need to do a heck of a lot more.
Emily, in terms of pressure on the government, how much does this conflict and the discussion and debate over oil prices and the need for it, how much does that put pressure on the government to, as quickly as possible, build up Canada's energy infrastructure and get a new pipeline built?
It's not necessarily about pipelines per se, because we're talking about really short-term, immediate problems and not things that people will be happy to solve maybe eventually in 5 or 10 years. But it is an opportunity in a sense that, for example, the Prime Minister was just coming back from India, where there was a trade mission, as well as Japan. All of those countries, and perhaps especially India, is very much also hit by the impact of the war in Iran. Already was hit by the sanctions on Russia. So is Europe. And so as we're hit, we need to remember that the Prime Minister's focus was already to try to diversify and find business opportunities around the world for Canada to not be as dependent on the U.S. And on that front, it might actually help him get some deals across actually faster because of the dire situation that other countries are in, basically. I remember just a couple of months ago, several of us were worried that Canada might be a little bit isolated in its being impacted by the trade war of Donald Trump. And now, basically, because the whole world is on fire, we are not isolated anymore, regardless of what that means. And so that doesn't help. Going back to Lisa's points, that doesn't help, families struggling right now, but I think there's an accumulation of that. It doesn't help. Nothing that has been done concretely has really helped people who cannot afford rent right now, let alone access housing. There's a housing crisis in this country. Our healthcare, our education system is crumbling in so many ways. People are who cannot afford grocery, not just cut out on restaurants, but just literally are going to the food banks right now, are struggling. There's been cuts to social aids all over the place, and a lot of the time, the reasoning, especially here in Quebec, that is said to do that is that we don't have the money to do this anymore, and now the prices of gas are going up. And
in
our
terms
immediate
of
reflexes is not necessarily, it can go back to the people who pay the gas at the pump, but there's also a lot of other issues that vulnerable people are facing right now.
And Andrew, you mentioned food, and that is something that maybe we won't see as immediate as we are with the oil prices or the gas prices at the pump. But if fertilizer is also being restricted out of the Strait of Hormuz, that there will be an eventual impact as well on food prices. Is that sort of the sleeper issue that out of this particular conflict in the Middle East that we're maybe not paying enough attention to?
I think there's a lot of potential impacts that are going to be felt as a result of those supply chains being disrupted in the Middle East. I don't know that it'll be entirely around food or on agricultural products. I mean, remember, where we get most of our food from is, of course, coming up from Mexico and the U.S. And so, how they're impacted will have something to do with that, at least our fresh goods, until our own seasons change here and we're able to get more out of our own fields. At that point, yes, gas prices start to impact some of that. But I think we also need to look, there are big structural questions about why have prices gone up so much? Why did they go up so much during the pandemic? And why didn't they come back down after that? And I think that this is one of the questions. I looked at gas today. I was going to go fill up. It was $1.47 a liter. That's still about, 18 cents less than it would have been a year ago, when I think I was paying somewhere around $1.65. So, it comes down. It was obviously more than it was 3 weeks ago. Prices are going to fluctuate. The question is, why did they seem to get built into things like food and never actually come back down? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this is one of the questions that really has to be addressed, is what else is impacting them.
Yeah, food inflation has certainly been what they call sticky, although that's probably an understatement. Lisa, even if oil prices come back down, as we've kind of been discussing, the economic impact of this war, of oil prices, will last beyond, even if they come back down. I mean, there's most predictions that this is not a short-term pinch because of this war. So how should the Carney government brace or prepare for the idea that affordability will even become more in the spotlight, which has been certainly an issue for the Conservatives, but may now be something that the Liberals can really not ignore?
Yeah, well, there's two parts to your question. So the first part is, how will the Carney government deal with the ongoing volatility that we're going to be seeing with respect to the price per oil? It's a market commodity. It's going to go up and down depending upon supply and demand. We've got a constriction right now in supply. We have a demand that's still the same. Can we open up the taps? Not that simple here in Canada. Maybe they can do it in other parts. Will the Russian tariff or will the Russian sanctions be lifted in order to get oil going again? All those things are going to be dealt with at the level of bilateral and trilateral and multilateral discussions. So that's the one part. The other one, though, is the one that is always going to be here and gets exacerbated by something like volatility in oil, and that is the plain and simple affordability crisis that Emily, that Andrew, that everybody is talking about right now and probably into the future as well. The issues with respect to affordability comes down to two things. How do you make things cheaper? I don't know. I mean, that's one thing we can rail against the prices and who's taking profits. But the surest way to do it is to make sure that people are getting paid more, that there are good jobs out there, that they're creating an economy, that you're giving the supports to the businesses that are employing the employees in order to make sure that they can pass along good paying jobs to the people who work for them. That is something that even while we follow trade around the world, Mr. Carney does have to think about domestically. And he doesn't have the luxury of saying, wait 10 years and we'll get it figured out, because people want to know now what their future is going to look like in the next 3 to 5.
Cameron, I'm sorry to keep you to 30 seconds on this, but is Canada any further ahead than a year ago in terms of making itself more resilient to all this uncertainty?
Well, quickly, I'll just say I think Lisa's absolutely right in everything that she just laid out, that's before the Prime Minister and the government. Is Canada better off better set up than it was a year ago? Hard to say, because the challenges that we face as an economy keep changing and keep growing and multiplying on each other. And that's not going to change. I don't think that there's any end in sight for the challenges that we face as an economy. But what the Prime Minister's done to set Canada up to be in the best possible position, which we share with every single other developed economy in the world, I think is exactly the right one. Constant discussions and open doors to the biggest trading partners and potential trading partners for Canada, which will position Canadian businesses in the best possible way to succeed and then create more opportunities for Canadians. It's really the best and most important thing for him to do, and he's continuing to do it. He's got another 3-country trip just ahead. So I think that's exactly what he needs to be doing. And it also sends the signal to Canadians that economic diversification and opportunity is the most important thing that the government can do to set us up.